see holes in here.
It smells moldy. Because I gotta eat the basement.
Daddy,
Oh my god,
Touch the leaves.
what are they called? And the other ones are called
Okay, we made it. Huh? The temperature in her house.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Up here on the hill is Liz. All right. Up here, this is Liz. She's our cave photographer. She'd like to take a photo for you if you give her a smile.
Hi, everyone. On the count of 3, if everyone would look for me, please, I'll get your photo. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right. Now, right up here are some tight spots where we need to watch our elbows, and there's 2 of those low spots on the left-hand side I told you about. So, we all set to go in? All right. If you don't dunk, you're going to be leaving your hat behind, sir. Here we go. Hey, Marcy. Marcy.
Yes. Oh my god, never that.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Ow, my back.
Put your hand on it. What it is.
All right.
We'll see if we can get Trey to fix it. Trey will know what to do. Watch your hand.
And a low spot.
Watch your hand.
One more low spot. Watch your head. This will get you. All right, the low spots are done for a while. Yeah, right up here we have the smallest formations in the cave. You see them, they're white and they're hollow. They call them little soda straws. And they call them straws because they're white and they're hollow. I should have left the light on like she told me. And, well, anyway, we all see the soda straws. They'll grow to about 8 inches long and a hole in the center will seal up. And they change their name to a stalactite. Now, they grow very, very slow. These here are probably about 70 to 100 years old. We'll use a rule of thumb while we're in the cave, and we say it takes 100 years for the stalactites and stalagmites to grow 1 inch long. Now, when these get a little bit, about 8 inches long, the hole in the center will seal up, and they change their name from a soda straw to a stalactite. Now, you see how long those are. They're about 3/4 of an inch to an inch long. If we touch those, it would take this oil from our skin and retard its growth for a long number of years, or possibly stop it. Right above your head, them soda straws are a lot shorter. You know why? Because this is the only spot we let you touch the cave and get it out of your system so you can feel it. So we don't want it to grow here. If you want to touch something hard, cool, wet, there you go. You do get dripped out while you're in here.
You want to touch the cave? This is the only chance you get.
Those are called little cave kisses, and they tell me these cave kisses are supposed to be good luck. I don't believe that though, because I get dripped on all day and I buy scratch off tickets at night and I pay my electric bill. All right, everybody, hey, you see why I say duck your head? It's going to turn your bump into this thing. All right. I'm going to take you up one step and show you the formation they call angel wings. It'll be right in front of the Jeep, and up at the ceiling, I'll shine my light up there as I approach it. You can see why they call it angel wings. I'll stop next to it, and you can get a closer look at it, and I'll tell you some things we know about it. We all set? Here we go. I am leaving that light up. started out as a soda straw. Now it's a grown-up, full-blown stalactite. That's tight to the ceiling. That's how we remember that a stalactite is up there. They create stalagmites down on the ground that might reach the ceiling. That's the easy way to remember that. Now, that little soda straw, no telling when that drop of water would drop from it, unless you touched it. This one here is the most active formation in the cave. It drips 365 days a year. Every few seconds you will see water dripping from this, and with every drop, there goes one right now. It does grow, it leaves a trace amount of calcite deposit behind, which is the minerals in the limestone above us. As it drips down here and hits the stalagmite, it brings some of that calcite deposit with it, and we say it grows. And eventually, if all conditions remain normal and this continues to drip and doesn't go dormant, they'll grow together and touch in the center. And when they touch, that's when the ceiling touches the floor. They change the name to a column. So if you all save your ticket stubs and you come back when this is a column, I'll guarantee you they will give you a free ride. 100 years to an inch. This is, for example, a formation that geologist came in and he claims that could be about 17,000 years old, he estimated. So remember 17,000 on that, 100 years to an inch, and we'll play with it when you go through the cave. Now next to this one that's dripping is also another stalactite, but it looks like a drape or a sheet up there. You see it? It's called cave drapery. It's been dormant for years. The crack in the earth sealed up and water doesn't get to it anymore. So that's why we can't really use that, measure something and say this is exactly how old it is, but it's a good educated guess that 100 years. At the next stop, I'll show you some real pretty columns where the ceiling does touch the floor. And also we have some drapery that's dormant here, some active young drapery at the other stop. They know exactly how old this drapery is because they know when it started and they've been watching it. All right. Any questions here? Kind of fascinating. All right. Let's go another step in.
Yeah, I got the truck.
To show you a column, they told me this is the straightest column in the cave. It is a straight column, huh? Ceiling touches the floor. It's an old water well. We just drove under the road you came in on when I made a left, and this is our neighbor on the other side of the road. He drilled the well. He got together with the cave owner, and they didn't mean for it to happen on this side of the wall. It's supposed to be about 10 feet open. They made some mistakes, and obviously, and there she is. The cave owner didn't know what to do after he drilled the hole through the ceiling. He had to plug the hole somehow, and he didn't know how, except to run the kelp well down another 50 feet. He hit fresh water, and voila, there she is. He did this in 1941, 71 years ago. Since then, the old farmhouse burned down, the well's been plugged, but we keep it around to keep the hole plugged in the ceiling so it doesn't bring on pollution. We know when he cracked the ceiling drilling the well, he was 92 feet below the surface. You're 92 feet underground. 71 years, there used to be a black iron pipe. Water's been dripping down the cracks he created, and the cave took over that pipe and made it white with a 1/4 inch calcite deposits. Up by the ceiling where it looks like little ribbons up there, y'all see them? That's some very young drapery. It's active. It was dormant at the angel wings. They went up there and measured that. Right up there. It's down about 3/4 of an inch right now. And it is growing. 3/4 of an inch at 71 years. That's where they got the 100 years to an inch. They proved it to you. That's 71 years worth of drapery. There's a big drapery column right in front of the Jeep. So how old can that be? I said very old. And I had a lady say, could I be more specific? And I thought for a while. And I said, yes, very, very old. We don't know. We weren't here when it started. But it's got to be millions of years. You can only try to figure some of this out. Now, to the right of that drapery, behind it is some white That's the signature slide. I wish it would touch the ceiling, and when it did, they changed its name to a column. They did not take a core sample off of that, but I would estimate it to be at least 15 times the size of the one back there by the end. So, just as a good estimate, 15 times 17,000, you're up to almost 2 million years old. All right, now, when it does rain outside and all the conditions are right and the soil above us is damp, within 24 hours the rain starts coming through the ceiling, it comes through the walls, and it drives through puddles of water. When you get torrential rains like we did last spring for 3 days, we were flooded. We were standing knee-deep in water here and shut the cave down for 4 days. When you get good torrential rains, this wall here turns into a waterfall. It's beautiful driving down here in a rainstorm until it floods. But when the water pours through this wall, it leaves behind the calcite deposits again, draining through the soil, and it covers the wall in what they call flowstone. As it flows down the wall, it turns into rock in a formation. As the water runs down the hill up here, it kind of looks like mud, but that's solid calcite deposit. There's a hole in the back corner, you can probably see it. Torrential rain makes that thing spit water out like a fire hydrant. It splashes back, hits the column of drapery, splashes back, and it made a big mound of calcite flowstone. Millions of years that's what it had to take. They have a floodlight shining on that as I drive by, peek behind the column, and when you light that flowstone up with a floodlight, I think it turns it into ice. See if it doesn't look like that. Now while we're in the cave, you can look around and people find things, and then they tell me about them. They see faces, they see animals, they see objects. They found a largemouth bass in the ceiling right above my head. That's a rock. It's not a real fish. It just never dissolved. Lady pointed out to me, she said, there's a lady seated in the shadow right over here. A young man told me a couple of days ago, there's a rooster in front of her. Yeah. Now, they didn't plan that. It just happened that way. People pointed it out. So if you do see something like that, let me know. I pass it along. All right. I'm going to stop at the next stop up here, around the corner here. I'll give you a heads up. There's a nice wall of formations there. I'm going to stop and show you natural cave life. You know what natural cave life is. Light from the cave. Natural cave life. What do you say? Yeah. Natural cave life. It's naturally dark in here. It's called darkness. Who's afraid of the dark? If you're not sure, I'm going to find out.
Let's hold off on pictures for a little while.
Take any pictures.
Just turn off the camera.
Yeah, take some pictures.
Go give it to Dad.
Let's let everybody have a turn like I gave Mary my camera so that she can take some pictures.
No, I don't wet.
Yeah, take some pictures. Yeah, together.
We can get a picture of all of this. How pretty.
Found the cave in 1862. They explored it 5 years later in 1867. In either case, they didn't have electricity back then. They didn't have light bulbs. They didn't know what they were. So they lit the cave with fire. And by fire, they had oil lamps. They had kerosene lamps. They had reed torches while you're on the end of a stick. Candles, that type of thing. I've got a small oil lamp, and I'm going to light it up and show you where they would have seen it when they came back in here in them days. But first, we're going to have some fun, and I want to show you that natural cave. So if you have a camera or a cell phone you're taking pictures with, and you got that screen all lit up on there, hide that for me, would you? You got them all hidden? Who's afraid of the dark?
I'm not.
If you're not sure, you don't need to see it. Just close your eyes. You won't see a thing. You're 100 feet below, and that's what she looks like. Now, you can put your hand in front of your face and look at your fingers. You will never, ever see them because your eyes have absolutely nothing to become accustomed to. They say if you're down here for about 30 days, your eyes will never come back to normal. You'll probably go blind. Nature will take care of that for you. You never get adjusted to sunlight again. Now, we do have another cave that runs just below us here, and that's where our blind and albino cave animals live. They live in total darkness like this. They're albino, they're white because there's no sunshine, there's no pigments in their skin. They have nothing to look at all day, they can compare with us. They're born without eyes. They don't even have enough pigments.
Why it's separated?
That's not me.
Oh, this is the Caverns when they came back in here in 1867. This little lamp will burn about 3 hours on that little bit of oil. But however you see these formations, just changes their appearance totally. I myself would not come into this cave with this type of light, and I know what's in here. It just gets awful scary this way. Kind of looks like an Indiana Jones movie, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to go back to the regular house light. Try to see your fingers one more time. All right, I did mention we have another cave that runs below us. What happened when the cave was being created here, it was filled with water and it dissolved out the upper cave here. Well, what happened, the pressure of that water caused the ceiling of that cave below us to collapse. The ceiling of that cave or the floor of this one. So in turn, we have underground sinkholes down here. Yeah. They built some bridges, steel and concrete bridges across these sinkholes so we can get deeper into the cave. I'll be stopping at the sinkhole and you see the entrance, the mouth of that lower cave. How many of you folks seen the wall pictures up there? It said beyond the tour, they were by the brown couches.
Yeah.
We can't get into that cave because it's a crawl space only, get on your belly and crawl type of cave. So they took pictures of what's down there. And they do have some pictures of the little cave fish down there. So if you haven't seen those, we check those out when we come back from the tour. All right. Any questions on what we did here? All right, let's go in deeper. That one there? You just pointed out a good thing. That is called cave coral. Right here. And what happens is there's a breeze that comes from the sinkhole. It comes through this narrow portion of the cave and it sucks the moisture out of these formations in this area here and it evaporates the water fast and it creates, you brought it up, cave coral. Huh, that's why it looks like coral.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Sinkhole. There's another one. Slide down there.
That's the entrance into the lower cave. It does run for 7 miles out towards the Springfield airport. This upper cave runs for 1 mile on top of it. Once you get started in that cave, for the first 2.5 hours of crawling, they say you cannot turn around to get out. It's a straight rocky tube. First spot you get to where you can stand up and get out is called the Paradise Room. They say that's where you felt you were when you're crawling 2 hours to get to it. So, when the cave does flood, these sinkholes fill with water at about a rate of 1 foot every 10 minutes. If you happen to be in that lower cave and you haven't checked the weather before you went in there and this started to take on water, that's a 2-foot high hole. You've got about 20 minutes to figure out how to get out of there before you're totally immersed in water and you drown. So, twice in 2008, once in 93, the water filled 1 foot above the top of this rail, and it took 6 days to drain out. Last spring, it was, I don't know how many folks lived around here, or do live around here. We had the 3 days of rain in April, And we were knee-deep in water in here. We watched this thing fill with water. And I gave one of the last tours when this tram floated around the corner. So, all right, who wants to see a bat? There's one hanging above your head. Little eastern pipistrelle bat. They hang by themselves. They're hard to find. About the size of my thumb. They weigh less than a nickel. Their wingspan's only about 3 inches wide. They do leave at night and they come out and they say they eat 100 times their weight in insects. These little guys weigh less than a nickel, so that's a lot of bugs they eat. Kind of hard to find, but he's right there.
Where?
There you go. He's upside down. You see his little itty bitty ears.
Cute.
Yeah. I showed this to her earlier too, and the guy asked me, the bat's not moving, he's sleeping right now, unless I woke him up with the light. But the fellow said, is he dead? If he was dead, he'd fall off the ceiling. Right? But they hang alone. And usually when we come in the morning, we see them take off and fly off into the dark spots and the cracks and crevices here and hide. And this guy happened to stay out here. Because they don't care for us driving through their bedroom all day with these heaps and spotlights, but this guy, I guess, didn't mind it. But I think every time I shine the light in his eyes, he's getting mad. He won't be hanging there too much longer, so. I'll leave my light up there if you want to zoom in with your camera and try to get a picture of it. Up forward here, there's a little movie I want to share with you. It's about 5 minutes long. It tells you the history of the cave. It shows you how it was found and things that were going on outside the cave. And also it's going to show you some things what this cave was used for, what went on inside the cave. And I think you just might be surprised when we show you this film. I won't tell you what happened. I want to show you instead because the picture does tell you 1,000 words. Everybody got a picture yet? Are you still trying? Did you get it? All right. I can take my light down. Here we go.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Oh, is that what it said?
Yeah, Dad and I were just sitting there. I saw them, yeah. They crawled around. Drive-in theater.
Really, it is a drive-in theater.
All right. Right here, you're a half mile into the cave. You're 135 feet below. And temperature should have dropped about 58 degrees right here. Now this is America's only drive-through cave, so that makes this America's only underground drive-through. Right?
History is filled with great discoveries where only the adventurous dare to go. And whether it was man or dog, the history of fantastic caverns has left a distinct impression on the Ozarks. The cave was actually discovered by a hunting dog that chased a small animal into a breach in the rocks. But it was in search of his dog that John Knox stumbled upon a great underground passageway, a vast chamber that would be kept secret for several years. In 1862, times were turbulent, a civil war raging throughout the land. If the discovery of the cavern had been publicized, Knox feared it might have been confiscated by Union or Confederate troops. The strategic underground location of the cave may have provided a great military advantage. Knox, therefore, kept his cave a secret for 5 years. Then in 1867, he ran an advertisement in the Springfield newspaper, looking for people to explore the subterranean world. Surprisingly, 12 women, all members of the Springfield Athletic Club, answered the ad. Their names have been recorded in history on a wall within the cavern. Stories of the cavern's magnitude and extraordinary beauty brought other explorers. A letter dated February 28, 1867, written to the Missouri Weekly Patriot, described detailed impressions of Knox Cave.
On Thursday last, I paid a visit to the newly discovered cave on the farm of Mr. Knox, several miles northwest of Springfield. Unfortunately, the entrance is not very wide, but is sufficiently large to admit a person of your humble size with little difficulty. A few feet down, and you reach the vestibule amphitheater, decorated by columns of stalagmite that can only be compared with wrought marble. Everywhere you are confronted with crystals as white as the driven snow. The formation, as in other caves, is purely calcified, reminding one by its continual yet uniform dripping of creation's long and steady process. The greatness of the size fills the mind with awe, and the imagination becomes infinite. We have visited many caves before, but have never seen anything as large, and need say, have never seen an equal amount of salt, pure earth.
In 1919, the property was sold, and the name was changed from Knox to Percy's Cave in honor of a son who was killed in World War I. The vibrant 20s brought lively changes to the underground world. The introduction of electricity and other modifications gave way to speakeasies during the notorious Prohibition era. Percy's Cave became known throughout the region for its illegal taverns and casinos. But in 1924, the speakeasy was shut down as a result of a shooting in the cave. 1925 was the beginning of a ghostly era for the cavern. Vigilante groups held secret meetings in and around Percy's Cave for the next 12 to 13 years. Not much is known about their activities, but by 1937, local interest in these secret organizations died and they disbanded. In the early 1950s, the cave received its name Fantastic Caverns, and properly so because of its magnificent beauty. Fantastic Caverns has evolved through many phases, and perhaps one of the most exciting eras was the 1960s and 70s. During this time, Fantastic Caverns became the site of the local, very popular Farm-Around program that aired on KGBX radio. On Saturday nights, Fantastic Caverns was transformed into the entertainment capital of the Ozarks. Buck Owens. Tom T. Hall, Bobby Bear.
Last night I went to sleep in Detroit City.
Ray Price.
Where is the arms that reach to hold somebody new?
And Bobby Lewis, all performed on stage in the auditorium room of Fantastic Caverns, as well as other local celebrities. In fact, Ozark country music actually got its beginning on the stage of Fantastic Caverns. The Ozark Playboys, better known now as the Presleys, are still performing in Branson as one of the few original music shows. But one of the most remembered performers was Fantastic Caverns' very own Caveman, whose sole purpose was to interrupt and entertain crowds. Today, Fantastic Caverns is still making history. Thousands of years have gone into the creation of Fantastic Caverns, and with each passing moment, history continues to be made. Most formations are alive and growing. So sit back in one of our Jeep-drawn trams and enjoy nature at work in historic Fantastic Caverns.
There you go. I couldn't have told it that well. That's why I said a picture tells you 1,000 words. Kind of surprised what went on down here.
Take it back, we would, maybe we drive past where the names were found in the wall. From the stage, underneath of it, and that's where all country Hall of Famers got their start. Buck Owens and Bobby Bear, Ray Price.
How many folks actually know who Buck Owens is? Nobody. No? One hand, two hands? I see fewer and fewer hands all the time, every time I ask that question. But this is getting younger people. We're getting old, you know? I told them we ought to get Justin Bieber down here. So yeah, they're going to have to.
Like a girl.
We're going to have to call some entertainers from Branson so people know who they are. But the entertainers from Branson were the Presleys. They started that hullabaloo down there. They left here in 1968 and built the first theater down there. So, all right. I'm going to drive past or backtrack a little bit where we have been and get back across those bridges so I can get into the other arm of the cave that I can't get to from this way, and that's where the biggest formations around the Hall of Giants and the Vespian Amphitheater, as he says. So, any questions on what you saw? None? All right, here we go.
We leaving now?
Really?
He's going to take it to another section.
Water.
I think that's in maybe because if gas comes out of the car, you run out.
Where they found the names in the wall.
Oh, wow.
Oh. February 27th, 1860.
It won't reach me because I'm smaller. I'm supposed to.
There you go. You got a car in Roger's still in the cave, and everything you've seen in the film and all the entertainment took place right in this room. The speakeasies to the Buck Owens and the Buckaroos or whatever. So when it was a speakeasy day, there was a bar on this block, there was a dance floor instead of a stage. Casinos, they say, were under this low overhang here. 1960, they built the stage, and that's where Buck Owens performed and all the rest of the folks, and that's what started Branson. They left here in 1968, and over the years, more and more theaters went down to Branson, and the attendance and the shows down here dropped to the point where it wasn't profitable anymore. All the interest in country music went down to Branson. So mid-70s, the mid-70s were some of their last shows here, and they said they were little gospel shows. Well, we have some of the original posters from Buffalo and Bobby Bear. They advertise their shows. There's 1,000 reserved seats out here, folding chairs. They give you $1.50 for adults and $1 for kids. You got a 2.5-hour country show. Price of change. Yeah. Back in 1862, when I found this cave, it wasn't built in the Civil War. He kept it a big secret. Well, I showed you that soldiers wanted to come in the caves, and they would use it for storage of ammunition. They would use it for shelter. But another thing that Knoxville that they did with caves, is soldiers would take over caves, and they wanted a microorganism that grew in the cave floors. It was called saltpeter. And what they would do is they would scrape a line in the soil and come back, and eventually that microorganism would reproduce itself and fill that hole in it. When that happened, they really had a mineral saltpeter is what they wanted. So what they did, they would come into caves and they would dig up the mud from the cave floors and put it in a large vat like this here. And in order to drain that saltpeter out, they would run water through it. They give some water. They would run water through it, dissolve out that saltpeter, and come out the other side. They had the saltpeter drained through, but they'd also have a bucket of mud, just a muddy slush. In order to get the saltpeter out of that muddy slush, they would boil the liquid here until there was no more, and they would end up with white powder, similar to what you see on the outside of this pot. But what they did then is they took that saltpeter, they mixed it with other nitrates. What did they do? What do they did with that stuff? They made gunpowder.
You missed me, Wayne.
I get you that time. Alright, well, this thing I didn't know. Saltpeter doesn't grow in this cave. Saltpeter only grew in dry caves. Well, some soldiers, they get the saltpeter. What they did is most of them came from Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. Mammoth Cave has over 327 miles of underground caverns, and it's a dry cave. Some also came from the Burbank Caverns, out there by St. Louis, which was Jesse James' old hideout too. It's also considered a dry cave. I don't know why he kept it a big secret. But speakeasy days, I tell you that. Vigilante days. No stage was here. No dance floor was here. They had a Grand Dragon leader that stood on top of this rock back here and used it as a hospital to address the fellowship down here. There's a room behind this little classroom that they built. It's called the council room. That's where they had their secret meetings at. So, everything that we did share with you, it is the truth. It is documented somehow. And that movie screener carving from the vigilante group. It's a masterpiece of names. We've got the ladies' names in the wall. We've got notes from the ladies in their journals that say they spent about 8 hours in here. He got as far as the first sinkhole. Couldn't cross it. They had no ladders or bridges. But I always say, these walls can talk. Think of the stories they would have to tell you. What else going on down here that we don't know about? Because what we shared with you was passed along from owner to owner to owner to owner. So it's truthful. It's always been a family-run cave. Like I said, I'm not part of the family. I was always, but it is truthful, and it is documented. All right, we're going to get into the Hall of Giants, prettiest portion of the cave. But I'll ask first, who wants to drive through where the cave collapsed? I see 3, 4 hands. Nobody else does? Tough. That's the only way we're going to get into the Hall of Giants. We're driving through where the cave collapsed. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to have to start ducking a whole lot more than we have been. The ceiling's going to get real low on the you'll see that just a little bit. right, the ceiling's gonna drop. Keep this in mind.
Wesley, put your Wesley.
Wesley.
Get in. Get your head down. Bring your elbows in. Get your elbows in. Get your arm in here. Is it in? Okay, I can't see it. Put your head wide.
It's gonna get lower.
Just getting lower, Wesley.
Get your head down, Bob.
Well, you're on that side.
Watch it.
Get your head down.
Wesley. You're going to drop this camera.
I'm not.
Look, it needs to be wrapped around your arm.
Oh my god, that is so cool. Look at that.
All right, this is called the breakdown room, and this is where the cave collapsed. Millions of years ago, it collapsed 3 different times. The ceiling caved in. Everything you see on the floor used to be on the ceiling. This used to be one big room. We came in on the other side. They made this opening so we can get in, and they made an opening so we can get out because this whole area was covered in debris. When the ladies got back to that first sinkhole, the only way back there was they made a path across the top of this and squeezed between the breakdown and the ceiling. Now, this has been in this. It happened so long ago. The best example of how long ago this happened is above the hood of the Jeep. There is a big chunk of ceiling that looks like it's ready to come down, but it's been hanging in that position for so long it attached itself to the ceiling with a column on it. Deposits 100 years to an inch. That ceiling piece has been hanging there millions of years, and all these stalagmites on the debris on the floor over here took a long millions of years to grow. So, but Missouri has over 6,500 caves that they know of. They find 80 to 100 new ones each year. And just recently they say they're going to name the state the cave state instead of the show me state. So I must say that it's kind of hard to drive to Wally World without going over a cave or two to get there. You'd be glad to know right above that dome ceiling you parked your car because the parking lot's on top of us. And you parked on top of a cave and you didn't even know it. You probably wouldn't have parked up there if you knew it was underneath it. So. All right, I'm going to get you into the Hall of Giants. Just as soon as I pass through this opening they made to get out, take a peek up at the ceiling and see if you can find out how many stalactites are up there. Try to count it.
Wow. Oh, stalactites.
Oh my god.
Here, take a picture.
Okay, I got kicked again. Twice. Now I got pushed 5 times. I got
Right. Anybody count them? All right. You know from the ladies' journals that when they did come into the cave, they used candles to light it. When they used candles in caves so they didn't get dripped on and go out, they put the candle inside of a can, cut the end of the can out and used it as a reflector, and they called that a can lantern. So we reproduced a can lantern. I'm going to light it up and show you what the ladies saw when they come in. There's a little bit of dark again. All right. This is pretty ingenious. I like this idea. Candle in a can with a wire through the top, and they made themselves a 1-candle power flashlight. Look at this candle, lights the whole room. And that's even a dirty can. It's got a whole bunch of wax in it. So, but the only way into the cave is from that back dark corner on the right-hand side. They got down to here to the valley. There's a path that comes towards the Jeep, and they had to go back up this wall of breakdown.
Oh man, it's all my glasses.
Glasses?
I keep getting dripped on.
Yeah, he said that's good lunch.
Get the camera here.
Can I have white?
It's okay if the camera gets
Have white then.
Came back out and they told the owner farmer not what he had. I can't imagine what they told him though, because this is all they saw. I mean, what would you tell me he had? Bunch of rocks. Bunch of mud. You got a hole in the mountain. Well, what if they could see it the way we could see it? What would they tell them now? Welcome to the Haunted Giants. Okay. These are called the Twins, I guess after the Twin Towers. They're about 24 foot tall, 18 foot tall, 24 foot in circumference. They are actively growing, and in about 100 years they'll be an inch bigger. So, I always say, you think if the old farmer came in chasing his dog and saw it lit up this way, he would have ever sold this cave. No, he had no idea what was in here. So, but right here, you're only about 30 feet below the surface, too. So it's kind of amazing what's below the state of Missouri. They say you can take Missouri, cut it in half. Looks like grass, Swiss cheese with grass on top. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, with all them caves. So, all right, we'll go up forward here. There's about 7 more columns up in this other area here. It is the most beautiful portion of the cave. If you look back where you have been as I pull forward, I'm going to be up about 17 feet higher out of this valley by the time I get to the door. These columns will be in the backgrounds of your pictures, and all your picture frame is going to be all the columns and draperies up in this next area here. Now, as I go forward to get there, there is a piece of ceiling up here, right where my light won't shine. Come on, light. Well, it finally died. I use my flashlight. There's a piece of ceiling up here, about a 10-foot stretch of it. It's a lot lower than it was where we just came from. So this is where I always say, you folks on the left-hand side of the tram, if you haven't met the people on that side, you're about to know who they are. You're going to have to do some serious ducking. So, any questions on everything I showed you? No? You look like you got one. No? All right, here we go.
Get down, Wesley. Get down.
Okay, I got my
Get down.
Okay.
That looks like a giant paper tape. That looks like a paper.
All right, one more rock you need to make your way on right here.
Oh, Wyatt, see that, man?
Oh, yeah.
There's your head right there. All three smile.
Hey, I actually wanted to be right there.
When you come out, you see it's a lot lower out there than it is where you're at. If you're looking back, taking pictures, try to leave some hair behind up here. Those other pretty fish looking back under the valley where the columns.
Watch your head, kids. Wyatt, watch your head. Whoa, Leslie, watch your head.
Let's see. The outside world. No, look how bossy that is.
Oh my god, I got lost. I just rubbed it off, dude.
Hit this light one more time. The original entrance is right outside here. Anybody find it? What?
The original
Can't
entrance.
see it? And I can't light it either. But I'll walk over here and show you. It's back in this hole here. This is where the dog ran in. Where the lady shed. I don't know how well I can light it.
Oh, wow.
Well, right back in that area there, I don't know if I can get my light in there. It's about a 1 foot opening by 2 foot across. When the old dog ran in, knocked squawk through, found out he had a cave. That's also where the ladies went in.
How did you see this?
And I don't think they wore them hats and dresses when they did that either. The old hockey was opening for years afterward, gave some walk-through tours. In the 1890s, they made a bigger opening over here so they could walk in. That's how they got the honky-tonk pianos in. Bigger door they put in 1960 when they made it a drive-through, and they opened them out and up on the other side so we can get in. So, there you have it. Any questions? You all had fun, I hope.
Oh, yes.
Okay. They took these pictures of you guys. I had them in here so they didn't get dripped on. I had them the whole tour in my jacket so they didn't get dripped on.
That's impressive.
I developed them on the way out. Anyway, if you would like to get one of these as a souvenir, this Photoshop is down here and they do sell these for $10. They're not available upstairs, so I do show them to you down here. If you'd like to purchase one from the Photoshop, they do take credit cards. Get with me after the tour and we'll go inside there because I got to go in there anyway. You can buy one with cash, pay me, and I'll pay them when I go in there to save some time. If you don't wish one, just pass it back. I got to show them to you here though because they don't have them upstairs. But take a look at them. If you don't want one, give it back. But do make sure the same person is still sitting next to you that we left with. If not, we know what they look like. We can go back and find them. And while you do this, go back and close the door, shut off the light.
It's pretty cool.
We had a good time.
I like that. That's very nice. Oh yeah, look awesome. $10.
$10.
I'm not here.
Yeah, we'll get that.
Oh, yeah.
So you can pay from here or?
Yeah, do you have cash? I'll probably have cash if you don't.
I don't know if I have a $10 bill.
You see, because I've got Mary and Leslie's money. I'll pay you back. I already owe you $10. I owe Mary $20. They're taking your money, Mary.
It was an aloe frame, Mama. It was an aloe frame.
Get back to the rain shelter.
It was an aloe frame.
That's for your safety. You're going to jump off and spray paint on the roof rest of your punch out. You like your tour? My name was Wayne. If you didn't, tell them George gave you this tour.
We have to stay here, Daddy. We have to stay here.
All right. If you don't look for a light, return it here.
I don't believe it.
All right.
We gave ours up to them.
Yeah,
like they showed it to us and we bought theirs. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
They're the same ones though.
they're all the same. One might have a cave kiss on it. I don't
Keep the
know.
picture, right?
Okay, you got an extra one? You're keeping one?
Real. Got one.
Okay. We'll put this all together. All right, and you wanted to keep yours up here?
Yeah. So there's a 10.
Okay. All right, everybody return a picture that didn't want one. I turn them back into the Photoshop. I give them to you, but they're not mine.
Absolutely.
All right, once again, thanks you guys. I always say thanks for listening to me the last hour. My wife never does, so I love this job.
Thank you.
Once again, thanks for coming.
That's so cool. Did I make up for yesterday? Did I make up for yesterday?
I'll let the camera survive for an hour. thought the battery was out because about like almost half we were in the Hall of Giants. It
Was it blinking at you?
yes, and I was like,
Mary, wait, Mary, wait, Mary, wait, West, wait.
no, you can do it.
That's fine.